Hello, retro gamers, and welcome to the Video Game Flashback Podcast. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Video Game Flashback is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps, featuring Spotify, but of course you can use any of the apps at any time. Spotify might help eventually if I ever get enough listeners for that to ever get anywhere. Otherwise, just word of mouth. Thank you always for downloading and listening to this show. It is a great pleasure to be back on board with you once again today. We're going to jump into the original six. As in the NHL, they have the original six, like the six remaining original NHL teams, Detroit Red Wings, Boston Bruins, so on and so forth. Well, for the Nintendo world, for myself and my brother many, many years ago, the Christmas of 1988, there were six original Nintendo games. There were six Nintendo games that we first got during that Christmas season: Mario Duck Hunt, RC Pro-Am, Spy Hunter, Rad Racer, and the last one was Breakthru. And today, that's the one we're going to get into, Breakthru on the NES. After, 3 games in a row that were insanely hard, like criminally hard. 1943. Castlevania 1 for the NES, Mega Man 1 for the NES, all NES games. So we're staying with the NES once again. Hey, it's my all-time favorite game system, and don't worry, there's going to be other systems again: Super Nintendo, Sega Master System, so on and so forth. We're going to get the Game Boy probably pretty soon, probably within the year here, as we went through a whole year without doing a single Game Boy game. So apologies for that, but getting some of these classics out there. Still haven't even gotten to a Mario game yet, which is pretty crazy. So, yeah, we're going to cover all those games over the next X amount of years and such. Halloween specials, Christmas specials. Well, this was an original Christmas type of a game, an original 6 in Breakthru. Again, taking a break in terms of a much simpler game. This will be probably a shorter game review, just because it's going to be. And at the same time, I may have a secondary Christmas review coming up. We'll see what that is. So that's still out there. Because got a lot of games for Christmas over the years. I'm guessing it won't be one of the super long ones that take forever. But Breakthru is actually the first Nintendo game I ever beat. Myself and my brother, it was the first Nintendo game either one of us ever beat. So going from games that were almost impossible to beat to one that's really not that hard at all, because you never really die in this one. There's no game over. And it's not like Ninja Gaiden where it's game over, but you can start again and die again, and game over and start again and die again, game over. At this one, you're going to get game overs probably quite a bit, but it's easy enough that you're going to figure it out and you're going to get through it. Breakthru on the NES. It also, of course, was an arcade game. And it was the exact same game, just a little bit better music. It sounded more like a Sega Genesis game. We might get into that one a little bit. It actually came out in the arcade first, of course, like you'd expect it would, 1986. That's the original form of Breakthru, but it is the exact same game. I'll probably play through that a little bit, but I'm guessing, not as much. This is going to be more of the NES one, 1987 Breakthru on the NES. Okay, and I'm going to tell you something. I looked for information on the designers and such, and it's not out there. So I don't know what the deal is. If some of you have information, kind of like Jim Stack, if you have any information, Breakthru NES, who created it? If you have any information, please tell us. So that type of thing. Other than the company Data East, who also made Burger Time and some other classics out there. So Data East USA, licensed by Nintendo of America Incorporated, 1987 for the NES. So we're gonna refer to takeonthenESlibrary.com for this one. Wikipedia just didn't have much information, just the arcade one, and we might dip into that as well. But again, and also to actually, we'll probably go there as well to also look at the other systems it came out for, because it did come out for the Commodore 64. It came out for obviously the arcade, like I mentioned 16 times already. And sorry about that. It came out for the arcade, the Commodore 64, the Amstrad CPC, because I wanted to get this all up at once here, and the ZX Spectrum, all different kinds of computers. And man, that looks kind of funny. But actually, see, the background detail is really good. And the car, okay, it's detailed, but it kind of looks, I don't know whether to say it looks primitive or looks advanced. I don't know. Amstrad CPC, interesting. The color of the car is different. similar design. Everything's kind of closer up. And the ZX Spectrum and the Amstrad CPC, like everything's closer. The soldiers are all closer. Commodore 64 looks very primitive. What the heck? Like it looks like, it looks like, I don't know, like something from almost like an Atari game. Commodores usually were a little better than that. The arcade looks like a Sega Genesis. That's basically what it was. Like the Genesis basically is like an 80s arcade in a lot of ways. It really is. Like when you listen to a Sega Genesis game and you listen to arcade games in the mid 1980s, it sounds like the Sega Genesis. It's it's just basically how it is. Not MIDI files, because MIDI files were actually up to the Super Nintendo already, which is kind of weird and hard to believe. Sega Genesis is actually even older. The NES, the detail's pretty darn good. Like the rocks actually look more detailed than the arcade. That's kind of weird. But the overall brightness and obviously the music quality better on the arcade. So the screenshot comparisons and such. This is referring to hardcoregaming101.net. I apologize, I had to get things to load here. Again, that one came out in 1986, the actual arcade version. So, yeah, pretty much everything came out in 1986 except for the NES version, which was 87. So maybe there's a little bit of improvements along the way. But heck, even the numbers on the buildings is the same in the city, the arcade versus the NES, 12. So it's like kind of funny how that all kind of works out. I'm probably going to be wrong when I'm saying that. But yeah, a mid-80s Data East games that fell through the cracks. Yeah, this is according to Hardcore Gaming 101. Yeah, because it did kind of fall through the cracks and was quickly forgotten. It's a fun game, but it's also easy to see why it wouldn't have a lasting impression. Yeah, because it wasn't exactly like, it's not a spectacular game. It could be a quarter muncher in the arcade version. See, in the NES, you do continue a lot. You're probably going to die a lot, but at the same time, you're going to get through it too, though. It's kind of like, it's basically like most arcade games where you're going to die a lot. It's a little bit of a quarter muncher, but it's beatable. It's not Ghosts and Goblins like, where it's like you just die over and over and over again and never really progress forward. You're going to eventually get through it and eventually beat it, because there really is no game over. There's only one part of the game, I think, where you could really get stuck and start screaming and yelling and getting frustrated, and that's trying to jump the pond in the prairie. Back in the day, me and my brother just couldn't get past that, along with friends that would visit David Duncan from England, who was unfortunately moved back to England many years ago. Who knows, maybe he came back again later, I don't know, but we lost touch. Back in the late 80s, way back in the day, we were third graders together. David Duncan, we played Breakthru together. It was so much fun. He came over, great kid, and I have a lot of positive memories about David Duncan. But yeah, like we had trouble getting over the pond, even though like I know I could do it, but I remember that day we had a hell of a time getting over the pond. And he probably wasn't as used to playing NES games as I was, but he still understood it. He still did fine, but wasn't as used to it. Maybe didn't play as often. So this is again 89, because basically 89 was our first real full year of having an NES in the house. Our parents were very generous. They still are. At Christmas time, we got the NES that came with Mario Duck Hunt. That's 2 games, and then the other 4 games that I mentioned: Spy Hunter, Rad Racer, RC Pro-Am, and Breakthru. I believe I selected Breakthru because it looked kind of cool on the cover. Like, oh, it looks like a war game. Looks cool. The car and the tanks and the soldiers and all that. So I've always kind of been that patriotic, like army kind of guy, especially as a kid. And then Spy Hunter was an all-time favorite, playing it on the Commodore 64 and in the arcades. And my brother, it's like, hello. My brother was obsessed with racing, and he still kind of is at times. RC Pro-Am and Rad Racer. So it's like, you can kind of tell the two differences in the directions we went. Funny, though, when he used his own Christmas money to buy Top Gun, which is more of an Army, Air Force type of a game. Of course, after a movie, no kidding. But we hadn't seen the movie yet at the time. But, we're going to review Top Gun someday. That was game number 7. That was the game that came right after. It was like a day or two after he used Christmas money that came from, like, aunts and uncles from my dad's side and my mom's side, I suppose. They both gave us cash at times, like checks and cash. And that's when he went on to buy the Top Gun game. Breakthru, well, it's like, I remember right away, it was like, it's fun and everything, but it was, like they said, it's a little bit underwhelming, unfortunately, because it's very simple. You're just kind of doing the same thing over and over again and surviving. You're literally breaking through. It's cool. It's a cool game. It's fun, but after a while, you're going to get to a point where it's like, okay, it's fun. I beat it. I'm probably not going to play it again for a while, but you will play it again. There is a replay value to the game. There is, but it's now like the kind of game that it's like, it's not memorable like Mario 3. It's not Pac-Man. It's not Galaga necessarily, though in some ways it's better than Galaga because it's, like Galaga's just like a screen at a time here and there. But it just kind of all depends on your taste, I suppose. You're kind of, you have to time your jumps. You have to time you don't want to go too slow and you don't want to go too fast. It's kind of like Spy Hunter in a lot of ways. That's probably, so it's kind of funny. That's Joey for you. Either like upward scroll, like vertical scroller or side scrolling shooters. That was Joey back in those days, like a space game or like cars and shooting at other cars or tanks or whatever the heck. Spy Hunter and tanks aren't in Spy Hunter, but you get the idea. It's like other spies and such. It's like Knight Rider basically, in a lot of ways. Imagine Kit with guns on it, and then of course and then of course this is Army Car basically is what the car is in Breakthru. So it's kind of interesting. You can just see the different personalities from my brother to myself in a lot of ways when you see the two different games we chose. Because, again, our parents were super generous. They said choose 2 games, and I chose Breakthru and Spy Hunter. So, yep, basically arcade style, and he chose racing. Yeah, and then Mario Duck Hunt came with the package. I said that 50 times. Duck Hunt, I'm not sure how I'm going to review that one, but maybe somehow, some way, I could figure out what to do there because I don't have an old tube TV and the laser gun or light gun or whatever the heck does not work on HD TVs. So we'll figure out something along the way. I think the Wii actually has like the Edge. I think that can work as the light gun. I forget how that works. So I'll try that with emulation someday. We'll see if that works. But it would have been interesting to try this game on some of these other consoles or computers, but I don't really have them. So I'm going to be honest with you there. I can play it arcade, though, on that console, Super Console X Pro. I do have it on there, on MAME. So I may go that direction to play the arcade version. It's not like I have the arcade deck right here in the room ready to go, because that's just how that goes. So the arcade game will be played in this review at some point. I'll kind of comment on it along the way, like the differences, if there really are any. Other than the music, it's basically the same music with the Sega Genesis quality. And I may throw it in and I may not. The main focus here is the NES version. That's where all the memories are and all of that. But again, it's pretty much the same exact game. The very dangerous jumps on the bridge especially. But there's jumps everywhere. You got to jump over rocks in the mountains at the beginning. You got to jump over the broken places in the bridge, on the bridge area. You got to jump over the pond in the prairie, and you got to jump over walls at the end of the game in the airport when you're getting when you're getting the plane back. So it's a very unique sounding airplane, and yeah, that's the whole point of the game. That's the story, is that this futuristic jet was stolen. And you're getting it back, basically. You're trying to go get it back from the enemy, whoever the enemy is. I'm guessing the Russians, because this was during the Cold War still. It's probably like imagining the Russians or that's probably what it is. Now, the map doesn't look like anything like any part of the world necessarily. It's just kind of random. But yeah, mountain, bridge, prairie, city, and then the airport, which is where the plane is, with a bunch of tanks and all different kinds of weapons. Cars and all that, and trucks that shoot at you, and of course soldiers who are literally standing out there shooting at you and risking their lives, because if they get touched by the car, they're dead. So but that's the other thing about this game, for the most part. Like, there's a lot of vehicles in the game that if you hit them, the truck dies. As long as they don't have a bullet coming out, the car dies. As long as fire or bullets aren't coming out and hitting you first, that the car, vehicle size, like smaller vehicle, it will explode and you'll just keep going and doing your thing. So there's a lot of death in this game. You just don't actually see anybody dying, but other than the soldiers disappearing when you hit them. And of course, every time you blow up a tank or any type of vehicle, somebody's dying. So yeah, there's a lot of death, but luckily it's not super violent. You don't see like blood and guts or anything nasty like that. You don't see soldiers literally tipping over and keeling over and dying like in Operation Wolf or anything, which is one of the game reviews on here. But that was a video that I made many years ago. They were considered video game flashback once upon a time Video Game Flashback almost became a YouTube type of a deal. It almost became a YouTube show, but ultimately has wound up here as an actual podcast, which I was considering way back in the day, but the day never really came. Dylan had created it, and finally, eventually, in 2022, December 2022, I finally brought it to life when Hipcast was ceasing operations, and it was time to take the feed and move it out of there to somewhere else. And I figured, yeah, okay, maybe I'll revive it someday. You know what? Screw it. Let's revive it now. And that's what happened. So pretty cool. Video Game Flashback finally came to life. And Breakthru is the kind of game that's perfect for Video Game Flashback at the end of the day. Kind of a simple arcade port type of a game on the NES, but it's a really nicely done port. It's just the game itself isn't necessarily the most memorable thing in the history of the world. So that's pretty much the whole point of it, going and recovering the aircraft. That's pretty much the whole point of it. Futuristic aircraft stolen by somebody. Again, I'm guessing it's the Russians because it's like it's kind of like that in a lot of ways because the U.S. and Russia were in a Cold War and it was kind of a technology war. Who's going to do this first? Who's going to do that first? Can you top this? Basically, like as simple as, well, not as simple as, but going also to a point of getting to the moon first. Who's going to get to the moon first? So on and so forth. The first in space was the Russians, and the first to the moon was the United States, unless, of course, we never did land on the moon. But I don't know. There's all kinds of conspiracy theories there. Did we get to the moon? Did we not? I don't know. But maybe that's for a Freedom of Thought podcast at some point, where I might get a little more conversation there. Honestly, I do not know. I don't know. But I'm open to any discussion on that one for Freedom of Thought. I accidentally called Video Game Flashback Freedom of Thought not too long ago, which is kind of funny. So that was just a mistake. Again, simple game. Go and get your plane back, doggone it. That's kind of the idea of it. Simple game, but challenging but beatable from Data East. Well, let's go. Let's arm your weapons. Let's go. Get your armor on. Whatever it is, your futuristic armor. Get in your futuristic car. Maybe it looks like a DeLorean with a big gun in the front. You can jump with it. It's a little bit like, it's kind of like a combination of Knight Rider in a way, because it can jump just like Knight Rider. See, Spy Hunter, you can't jump. You don't jump in Spy Hunter, where Knight Rider does. So it's kind of like Knight Rider also. Funny, I must have liked Knight Rider, huh? I did. I loved Knight Rider as a kid, and I like it now. So I guess that's kind of where I was leaning towards, other than a 1943, a up-scrolling shooter that I loved at Shakey's Pizza. Great memories there, and of course a birthday game in 1989. So, yeah, and one of the hardest games ever made. This one, definitely not one of the hardest games ever made. It's tough, but it's beatable. And I've said that about 50,000 times. So enough of my lips flapping, enough of flapping the gums. I wish I had more information as to who developed the game other than Data East. But for some reason, again, like they say, the game slipped through the cracks. So I don't know. It's mystery people. Maybe it was the CIA. I don't know. I'm just kidding. With that, we're going to take a quick break and return with the actual gameplay of Breakthru on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Yup, it's time to torture myself some more. Not really. Player 1, Player 2, you can have up to 2 players. Again, 1987 Data East, licensed by Nintendo. Here we go. The enemy, you get the little story starting up. The enemy lines. Rescue your PK-430 aircraft. The enemy, it's so slow, is holding 800 miles from here. So the enemy lines, rescue your aircraft. The enemy, so 800 miles. So we start with the mountain. Let's get going. Fight your way through the mountains. Watch for landmines and falling rocks. It's that simple. You get kind of like boxes that blow up, I guess, when you hit them and they don't damage you. There's landmines. If you hit them and you die, but you can shoot them and they turn black and, because they blew up. It's that simple. Watch for falling rocks. That's why you don't want to go too fast. You can shoot the rocks and drive right through them. So, interesting. Then you get the actual fall in rocks, where it's like a pile of rocks. You got to jump over it with the A button. B button shoots. You get the little army trucks and such. Just keep far and away. Time your jumps, watch for falling rockets, and then you get like weapons that come out of the sky. The smaller, pill-shaped item or bomb-shaped, whatever the heck, gives you about 10 seconds of like a triple shot, which is really nice, like a spread shot, kind of like 1943. So again, I keep calling it spread, but it's three-way. And then you get these things that I always used to think were like big landmines that shoot at you. Fudge. So of course, if you if you have like a weak jump, you're not going to get over the rocks and die. But again, the continues last forever. You go into tunnels where it looks like it's cut open so you can see what's going on in there. That's always interesting. You get the flame-throwing car tank thingies. And then, of course, the big thing that I call like a mine that has cannons. That's always fascinating. And every time you die or whatever, you hear the same song about, yep, get through the mountain and da-da-da-da-da. So you're going to die many times, but don't give up. You just progress a little bit more each time and you'll be fine. You're probably going to hit some issues and hear this song once in a while, the Game Over song. But that's totally fine because guess what you do? Continue, and you continue from your last checkpoint. You don't just start at the beginning of the mountain or the beginning of the city or bridge or whatever. You continue from the last checkpoint. So it's very reasonable there, kind of like Ghosts and Goblins, where you continue from the last checkpoint. But, this game is much easier than Ghosts and Goblins. Man, last time I played through this, I just zipped through the game. Right now I'm struggling a little bit. I keep crashing into rocks and stuff or not jumping quick enough. It's like my mindset is kind of, I don't know, if I didn't get enough sleep last night or what my problem is, or I keep concentrating on that stupid mine thingy that I usually ignore. Finally got over the fallen rocks. It's about frickin' time and the level's over. It was that simple. The mountain's pretty easy. Break through the enemy lines in the bridge area, stay alert. So now you get to hear the You Beat the Level song. And now we've gone to the bridge. Jump through the destroyed areas of the bridge. Watch for falling rockets. So you're going to hear about watching for falling rockets all the time. So basically, like, who knows? Airplanes are probably, like, trying to bomb us or whatever, shoot missiles at us. There's two levels of the bridge. There's the upper level, the lower level. Of course, watch where you're going. You don't want to go too fast. So, obviously, because the bridge does break, you got to, the bridge is broken. It doesn't break on you. It's already broken, destroyed. So you got to kind of, pay attention to what's in front of you. You don't want to go too fast. You don't want to go too slow either because your jumps will fail and you'll explode when you hit the water, which is kind of funny. There's these weird, like, kind of car tank things that shoot shots all over the place. They come slowly in your direction and then go fast backwards, which is really annoying. So kind of wait for them to go away and it shouldn't be too bad. There's a part where the bridge turns diagonal and it's kind of funny. It's all jagged looking. It's kind of funny. Then you get, in this level, you're going to start seeing larger tanks and such, which are a huge threat. They take several shots to beat, and the shot angles are kind of a smart angle shot. They'll shoot diagonal at you, they'll shoot straight at you, and such. So watch out for that. Take your time and shoot accordingly, and then speed up a little bit, basically. Another part. So I'm getting to the first area. So there's two tanks in a row, and then eventually you get to the first area where you have to jump from the lower level to the upper level in a diagonal fashion to jump the bridge. It's the most. There's two dangerous jumps in a row. You can kind of cheat past the first tank. You can just kind of drive quickly past it. The second one you kind of have to destroy and build the momentum right after that and get ready to jump up diagonally. And then there you go. That's kind of your key there. Get rid of the tank. And then just kind of book, baby. You get your first experience with helicopters. They cannot be destroyed, so just try to get past them as quick as possible and pay attention to shots that might come up from behind you. That happens more often later in the game, like the prairie and the city and, of course, the airport and such. But it might happen in the bridge as well. A lot of times you can cheat past the tanks, But in that one diagonal jump area, you absolutely must get it. You actually must kill it and then pick up the pace. You also will see a weapon come down that's like a ball. That's an unlimited, infinity shot until you die once. So there's that. I'm already almost done with the bridge. There's at least one more dangerous diagonal shot. And of course the helicopter and all that. So the cute little cars are kind of fun to run into. Then you get the army trucks that shoot from behind and all that. They only take a couple shots. Whew, I made the diagonal jump. I almost didn't have enough momentum to get past that. But me and my brother back in the day had a really, really hard time with that. But not too bad. Once you get through that second one, you're probably home free. Break the enemy lines in the prairie. Stay alert. Be ready to jump the pond in the prairie while fighting the enemy. Stay alert. So yes, that's basically the theme of the game. Stay alert. That's all they need to say pretty much. Then you get what I used to call like a baseball field or diamond of home base, second base, third base, and you know what I mean, first base and stuff with the landmines. I always try to shoot all four of them, but this time I didn't. This place, you kind of want to keep moving as best possible. There's no real reason to go slow here. Just kind of keep firing away. Watch out for the fence. There's a part where you could actually crash into a fence if you're not paying attention, so that's kind of annoying. Just a little bit. Be ready to jump the pond while fighting the enemy. Yeah, you're going to see that every single time you start playing again. I want my spread shot back, but of course that's gone for now. But nope, then there's a permanent one again, so that's always wonderful to have. You can really book through the level this way, killing a bunch of soldiers. I can't say soldiers for some reason. You noticed that in the last review. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like a Vietnamese accent. But now you get to the infamous pond, where it's like a dock, you could say. You got to jump onto the island, not going too fast, kind of medium speedish. Jump off like what's like a dock, and land on the little island in the middle of the pond, and then jump over. But this time I actually failed, unfortunately. The last couple times I played through this game, I got through the pond on the first try. Not this time, ladies and gentlemen. There's all kinds of hazards in the way, like falling rockets leading up to the pond as well. And that stupid, whatever it is. Like, my brother always called it a large landmine that shoots at you, but I don't know what it is. There's not enough information online about what these enemies are. It's kind of annoying, but kill that thing, the diamond-shaped landmine thingy, and hope for the best. Again, you got to go medium speed. If you're going too slow, you won't get to the island. If you're going too fast, you're gonna, fall off of the island before you can jump again. So it's like a 1-2 type of thing in order to get past the frickin' pond. Slow down as you get to the dock, then speed up a little bit. I can't seem to do it this time around, so eventually I'll get past this. It's not that hard. I've done it a billion times. It's just back in the day. This was kind of the turning point of the game. You get past the pond, you're probably going to be okay. The city's very congested and annoying, but, it's very annoying and congested, but it's beatable, that type of thing, especially when you get the three-way shots, and you can kind of wipe out all the stuff that's in the way. Mostly soldiers and car type of characters, or, enemies and all that, so it's amazing. It's amazing stuff. I'm never going to get past this pond. I couldn't even jump this time. I got hit by a rocket. So it's one thing after another. It could drive you absolutely berserk. One of these days I'll get past it. It's just so much going on at once. They're kind of medium. I still can't do it. I can't make this jump. I'm like the angry video game nerd right now. Maybe you can just walk over it, right? Like in the Turtles game review, in case you remember that one. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, one of his, it was kind of like his breakthrough video, really. Like, that's the one that made him famous, so to speak. The angry video game nerd. You can just walk over it. I think I'm going the right speed. No, I'm never going to get this jump. I'm just too distracted by doing the podcast, I think. I'll get it one of these days. Finally got over that infernal jump. Oh, it was like... Whew, it's kind of like a medium speed, and you got to hit that jump button as fast as possible and make sure you're not, like, slowing down. It's kind of a combination of things. Like, do not slow down. And then, of course, you get another one of those control thingies that, remote, like, cannon, whatever the hell it is. I kept calling it, like, a large landmine. Watch out for that thing. Don't get shot by it. Just go. Just try to get past it as quick as possible, and you're going to be fine. Whew! And you're probably off to the city. You got to watch out for the helicopters. You get those kind of smart bombs that come after you from behind. Get through a couple more bad guys along the way, and you're off to the city. City boy. Break the enemy line in the city. Stay alert. Number 1. Oh, my goodness. Whew. Just getting past that pond. You are almost to the airfield. Keep fighting. In the city. Ooh. Now here we are in the city. Busy, 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 busy. Yep, you got snipers coming, shooting out of buildings. You got the flame-throwing car tanky thingies that also shoot spread shots and such. The faster-moving cars that actually can shoot at you now. And of course the extra spread shot for yourself as well. You jump up and catch. Soldiers everywhere. It's a very busy, 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 busy place. Landmines everywhere. The army trucks that shoot you from behind or whatever, that shoot from behind in your face, basically. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. But if you just kind of... This one is more like a sprint. Just kind of keep firing, pay attention to where you're going, and blast away. Along the way, you'll see an extra guy. It's a car coming down on a parachute. That's adorable. But yeah, this level, just kind of, again, fire away and pay attention, but go as fast as you can. The address on the buildings always seems to be like either 1 or 222, so not a good place if you're a door dasher. I just got 2 extra guys. I don't think I've seen that happen before. Is the game glitching or something? A second one? Maybe that's normal, but I'm blanking on that one. Somehow I'm just blasting right through this thing. Unfortunately, my spread is gone, or 3-way shot is gone. But I am progressing incredibly. Didn't lose a single life. PK-43 is in the 30 is in the next area. Recover it and fly back. Good luck and all that good stuff. So recover the aircraft, jump the walls and find the aircraft, fly back home. Ooh. Showtime, folks. You're in the final level, and the music is the same. And most of the bad guys are the same. You get the falling rockets and such. You're on a long, long runway-looking thing. You get the mines, of course, jump the walls. They're not hard to jump. It's just timing. You get what look like F-14 Tomcats in the background, or F-16s, F-15s, whatever the heck they are. But a lot of the really cool, famous type of war jets you can imagine in the 1980s. And today, so there you go. Again, it's not the longest level in the history of the world. It really isn't. It's basically an airport. Yeah, it's an army airport, basically. Interestingly, you never really know who you're actually fighting against. Is it Russia? I'm guessing it's something like that. That's just a guess that it's Russia because it's during the Cold War era. 1987. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Excuse me. You fill in the blanks as to which awesome president that was. Yeah, you know who it was, most of you. But yes, just kind of, again, it feels more like a sprint. Don't take your time, because the more you take your time, you're actually more likely to get hit by something. So just kind of sprint, fire far away. Occasionally you might have a poor time jump accidentally and crash into the wall, which is a lot of fun. But, oh well, you know, this isn't a hard game if you just kind of pay attention and such. Watch everything that's going on. And you have unlimited continues like Ninja Gaiden. And not nearly in the same conversation as Ninja Gaiden. And then I've died a couple times along the way, but already about 3/4 of the way through, or 2/3, or whatever the heck it is. I keep there's a certain area where I keep running into the wall because there's so much coming at you at once. So it's kind of annoying, including falling rockets and such. I actually slowed down for that, so maybe that's good, and then I pick up speed. But I don't know. I can't seem to get past this certain little spot at the moment. But, oh well. I'm not too stressed. I'm pretty much near the end of the game now already. It was a nice run during the city until I hit this frickin' wall. Now it's like you die once, and then you start dying like 50 times. That's the most annoying part of all. You get frustrated, you get stuck. But Unlimited continues, folks. The only sad part is, imagine this is the arcade game, and it's a quarter every single time. So back in those days, quarters were worth more than now. You got to think about Reaganomics versus somebody else. So obviously now things are a little bit tougher, but that's how that goes. That's kind of how life is. Thanks to the Federal Reserve and such, and diluting the dollar, what do you expect? Of course, money is going to continue to devalue. So, yeah, now I've gotten into that topic on Video Game Flashback, but, well, maybe you needed to know that, dang it. So, don't worry about the red tanks that are like an oil tank or something. You can drive right through them. In real life, you wouldn't quite be as successful. Like, you just drive through them like, it's so scary. Eventually, you see a couple of helicopters again. Just keep sprinting past them, if you know what I mean, and so on and so forth. Eventually, you get closer and closer to what appears to be the end of the game. But, yeah, I'm getting closer and closer. Eventually, the last line of defense for the whole place is just 3 soldiers, one at the top, one in the middle, and one at the bottom. And then you get to hear the end of the end of the end. The level's over, and now you get to hear the ending music. Congratulations to your bravery. You have recovered the stolen aircraft. And when you see yourself coming out of the car, you're amazed at how pathetic it looks. What is that? It looks like a guy that can't walk, or like a busted up Terminator or something. The plane you get into looks kind of like, kind of like an F-16, but tougher, more interesting. It's like an F-16 mixed with a stealth bomber kind of look. But obviously it's a very important airplane, at least in this game. And off you go. You take off, you see the edge of the continent, and you're flying over the ocean, and you gradually kind of scroll to the right as you hear the pretty music playing. And that's about it. There's no credits, nothing. No credits, no storyline afterward. You just start the game again. So, give us more money, damn it. That's pretty much what it is if you're in the arcade. So, yeah, you beat Breakthru, and yeah, this is the very first video game I ever beat. And there's a reason why, because you have unlimited continues. Even though you get stuck at parts, you're eventually going to, get lucky or get hot or whatever the thing is, kind of get into momentum and beat it. And then the game just kind of restarts and your score continues. Like, who gives a crap? If you're playing this game for score, well, I don't know. Maybe in the arcade, but at home on the NES, there's no reason. You're playing to win. And, well, that's what you just did. Congratulations. And we'll be back for some feedback. And we are back here on Video Game Flashback, the feedback segment, not fan interaction. I always have an urge to say fan interaction. That's for sports. Feedback segment. Let me see, messing around here. Sorry. I want to thank Vince Germano out of Australia and Derek Velska out of Western Wisconsin for retweeting the most recent episode 23, Mega Man on the NES. This is, of course, episode 24, Breakthru NES. So thank you so much for the retweets there. A few likes as well. Yeah, really appreciate you guys that did that. Give some follow backs and such. Yep, Reese Pedretti. Yep, obviously Reese Pedretti. I believe he's following. Yep, oh, he didn't follow back? What? Or did he unfollow? I don't know. He's probably following back somehow. It just doesn't show it. So we're going to hear from Derek Felska of the Crease and Assist podcast. Crease and Assist, or Crease Assist podcast, talking about the Minnesota Wild. Yep, me and Brave the Wild. Yep, we both do Minnesota Wild podcasts, of course. So obviously he does a fantastic job. But also as a retro gaming maven, obviously loves it. loves retro video games. He's got a wonderful, wonderful collection, does Derek. I showed pictures, and yeah, so obviously give him a follow back at Crease and Assist. He talks a lot of hockey. Hopefully you like that, and I certainly do, but he also does post about retro video games quite a bit as well. Let's get to what Derek had to say. Data East's Breakthru is kind of a pick up and play game. Yep. Where it sort of reminds me of Moon Patrol. That's a good comparison. But with a side-scrolling isometric view, it would be nice if you could treat each hill of rocks that you jumped over as a checkpoint, so you could just be past that obstacle instead of having to go through it again. Yep, just like the stupid pond, right? But luckily, usually once you get past the pond, you're okay. Oh, that's probably the hardest part of the entire game. Anyhow, that's me saying that part. Sorry. I find the controls in the game a bit loose, and some of the hit detection is a little off, making the game more frustrating than it needs to be, even if it is a short game. Yeah. Oh, yes. The hit detection is incredible. Like, again, this would be a coin muncher, and it was a coin muncher in the arcades as well. It is the exact same game in the arcade, just like Sega Genesis sounding music and graphics, basically. Because that's pretty much what the Sega Genesis was going for in 1989, was kind of like, it's like an arcade system. And it basically was, like same sound chip and everything. So sound style and graphics. It was basically like 80s arcade level. Anyhow, like mid to late 80s arcade style. Continuing, part 3 from this one with Derek with a tweet. Okay, I didn't need to mention the Twitter account for Video Game Flashback as well, at VGF_podcast. And if you could, again, to keep things organized, hashtag VG Flashback. So it's all the VGF, those are the first 3 letters. And then Flashback is obviously all there. It's VG Flashback. And there you go. That's how we can keep things organized with hashtag, if you could. I would give Breakthru 2 out of 5 stars. Yep, I can understand that. It's cheap and available in both 5-screw, 5-screw and 3-screw variants, and will set someone back about $17 to $12 respectively for a loose cart. Not my favorite, but if this is what you got for Christmas, you had to make it enjoyable, even if that enjoyment didn't last long. Yep, so I'll pause there. Exactly. That's pretty much what it was. And it was the thrill of finally beating a video game for the first time in my life. I hadn't beaten Mario and Duck Hunt, Mario yet. Duck Hunt, I think doesn't that one just go on forever? Duck Hunt, until you finally just like miss enough that you lose. That kind of thing. It gets impossible later on where you cannot miss. You have to be perfect throughout Duck Hunt, and then the Skeet Shoot, which is also in that game. So, again, if I do Duck Hunt, it'll probably be mostly commentary. Like, how can I really even play it as a... But, yeah, it would be basically commentary, probably, which is what some of the game reviews are going to be in the future. Like, a game like Final Fantasy IV, I'll probably... Or if I play through it, it would be kind of like playing through it, do a little bit of commentary, and then, play through the whole level, and then get back to you on bits and pieces of it. That might be how I'll do a game like that, because otherwise... Like, if I play through Final Fantasy IV... the way I played through Breakthru just now, it might be like a 10-hour or more podcast, and you'd be like, really? It probably wouldn't even fit on the iTunes or whatever. They'd be like, no, you can't do that. It's too big. So, anyhow, sorry. Yes, and the 5-screw thing, that's one of the things that kind of slipped my mind a bit when it comes to NES games over the years. Apparently, certain games were 5-screw, which is insanely rare, and it brought their value way up to the moon, like Mega Man 1. Was way up to the moon. So a conversation me and Derek got into off of air, off the mic, off air, so to speak. It's very interesting. So it's just the rarity, just because it's 5 screws, but apparently it's a really rare situation there. So really rare version of the game, excuse me. So back to Derek when he said, yep, enjoy it, even though if it didn't last long. I think every kid that lived in that era had games like that, yep. Where it wasn't the best, but you kind of forced yourself to get what you could out of it. An okay rental, in my opinion. Yeah, an okay weekend rental, yep. And I guess that's it. Yep, okay. But that was awesome. Retweets also from Tene Brown out of New Zealand and Derek when I did a bat signal. Unfortunately, nobody responded on that one. Just retweet, which is okay. See, now, Derek obviously did all the conversation already, which is totally fine, and I'd forgotten to put out the bat signal. Usually I like to put that out a little earlier than I did, but this one I kind of figured I'm not going to get much anyway, but just always a shot in the dark. The next one, I'm afraid I might not get any response, but I'll probably get something. I'm sure Derek will have something to say about the possible games. I'm still debating between two possible games that I'm going to do. Since it's Christmas season, this is a Christmas game, but I'm releasing it too far before Christmas for it to be like done with Christmas games, Christmas type of games. So, like the AVGN would do, the Angry Video Game Nerd, I might go to the biblical department, which is fun, and I'm not going to curse out the game like he did. The Angry Video Game Nerd, of course, Cinemassacre, obviously, great game reviews of these. I'm debating between Bible Adventures or Exodus, because I did get Exodus for Christmas in the 92 around the same time, the Christmas of 91, 92, the same time I got Mega Man 2, I believe, I'm pretty 99% sure it was the same Christmas. And to think how Mega Man 2 was $40, Exodus was $50, and I remember right after that feeling so guilty. I felt so dang guilty. I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Yes, it's a Christian game, and praise the Lord and everything, but it's like nothing. It's not even it's like a really crappy version of Gauntlet, basically, on an NES game. There's like nothing to it, basically. Yes, it's a video game. It's not badly made. It's just $50 for this. There's nothing there. So I'm already starting the game review. I might actually lean towards that one. I'm leaning towards Exodus, and I might go with Bible Adventures. That one's more complicated because it's got 3 games in it. And there's a game playing automatically now on the NES Classic that I will be doing probably not too far from now, Dr. Mario. Because why the heck not? Especially during cold and flu season. Okay, I don't want to even think about that. I really don't. But I might do Dr. Mario this winter sometime. If that was a game I got for Christmas, that might be the one I'd play next. Because I've been thinking about this game for a while. It's a classic. There's not that much to say, but it'd be fun. It's just a fun, enjoyable, kind of a short review. And then eventually I'm going to get to possibly a Mega Man 3, maybe as we get into like January. I'm kind of debating back and forth. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers is probably going to happen for sure this winter, maybe January. It might be the next review after Exodus or Bible Adventures, but that's what I'm leaning towards for the next game review, Exodus or Bible Adventures. And if I come up with something different, so be it. Just some spur of the moment. I was thinking Blades of Steel, and it's just like, I'm not feeling it. I don't know why. I'm just not. So even though the Wild are playing much better since since the coach got let go, sadly, Dean Evison. So with all of that said, I'm again wishing you a happy holidays / Merry Christmas season, as we are heading into another Christmas game coming up here, Christmas related game. I'm probably Exodus, but I might go with Bible Adventures, so be forewarned. You could even talk about either one, but I'm going to do one of the two. With that said, if you could put a positive rating, 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other app that may allow you to do that. It's a very important algorithm that'll really, really help it'll really help this show become more and more available to potential listeners, become more of a, it'll actually show up in searches. It's the whole algorithm thing that despite the fact I've been podcasting forever and ever and ever, longer than just about anybody I know, pretty much anybody I know. And I didn't really think about the algorithms a whole lot, that makes a huge difference. And I kind of figured it did, but yes, it makes sense. Like the more positive ratings, the more it's going to show up in potential searches. So you look up retro video games, you might see Video Game Flashback if I have more positive ratings on there. If I have nothing, it's kind of like a tiny little plant with 2 little tiny leaves that you might see under a huge rock or something, or standing kind of in a dark shade underneath a redwood tree, and good luck seeing that if you're way up in the sky. That's kind of what I feel like as Video Game Flashback compared to, just kind of other podcasts out there when it comes to retro video games right now. Despite the fact the feed of the show is insanely old, I just never, recorded on it all these years until last late fall, early winter. With that said, I've babbled enough. Breakthru, I'm agreeing with that 2 out of 5. It's about 2 out of 5, maybe 2.5, something like that. And yes, it's not a real expensive game. It's a quick little fun thing. Obviously, emulation's available. And yeah, try the arcade game. Since you don't have to worry about losing your quarters, You can try the arcade version. It sounds and looks like a Sega Genesis game, and it's pretty good, honestly. So it's good enough anyway. So with that said, have yourself a merry little Christmas season, and we'll be back with either Exodus or Bible Adventures next. Until then, game on.